abandoned places. They're supposed to be empty, silent, forgotten by time. Places where nothing moves, nothing breathes, and nothing remains. But what if that's not true? What if some places are abandoned for a reason? Not because people left, but because something made them leave. Think about it. Hospitals, schools, houses, entire towns, all left behind. No explanation, no warning, just gone. And when people return to these places, they don't just find dust and decay. They find things that shouldn't be there. Unexplained movements, strange sounds, objects that seem to have a life of their own. And sometimes, something even worse. Because the truth is, when humans leave a place, it doesn't always mean it's empty. Sometimes, something else moves in. And tonight, you're about to see 5 of the creepiest things ever found in abandoned places. Welcome to Built on Purpose, where we don't just tell stories, we uncover the darkest corners of reality, the places most people are too afraid to explore, the truths that don't make sense, and the mysteries that refuse to be explained. Because what you're about to see isn't fiction. These are real discoveries, real footage, real moments captured in places that were never meant to be visited again. So before we begin, ask yourself one question. If you walked into an abandoned building and heard something behind you, would you turn around? Let's begin.
Number 1. The abandoned hospital. Hospitals are places of life and death. Places where people come to be saved, and sometimes where they take their final breath. Now imagine a hospital left behind. No doctors, no patients, no staff. Just empty hallways, fading paint, and silence. This particular hospital had been abandoned for over a decade. Windows broken, equipment rusted, rooms left exactly as they were on the day everything stopped. No one knew why it was closed. No official explanation, just rumors. So when a group of urban explorers decided to enter, they expected nothing more than an empty building. At first, that's exactly what they found. Long corridors covered in dust, old hospital beds, medical equipment frozen in time. But then, they discovered something strange. In one of the rooms, they found a stack of patient records, old files, covered in dust. But when they opened them, something didn't make sense. The dates. Some of these records were dated years after the hospital was officially shut down. At first, they thought it was a mistake. But then, they found more. Dozens of files, all showing activity after the building was supposed to be abandoned. That's when things started to feel wrong. Very wrong. As they continued exploring, they began hearing sounds. Soft footsteps, echoing through the hallway. At first, they thought it was just the building settling, but the sounds continued. Slow, steady, almost like someone was walking just out of sight. They checked every room, every corner, but there was no one there. Then, one of them noticed something. A door at the end of the hallway. It was slightly open, and it wasn't like that before. They were sure of it. Slowly, they walked toward it, each step echoing louder than the last. The air felt heavier, colder, and as they reached the door, it creaked open on its own. Inside, the room was empty, but something felt off, like they weren't alone. They decided to leave, but the real horror came later, when they reviewed their footage. At first, everything looked normal.
until they reached the hallway scene. There, in the background, behind them, was a figure, standing still, watching. It didn't move. It didn't make a sound. It was just there. And none of them had seen it. Not in real time, only on camera. And that raises a terrifying question. How long had it been there?
Number 2, the haunted amusement park. Amusement parks are meant to be full of life, laughter, music, people enjoying moments they'll never forget. But when an amusement park is abandoned, all of that disappears. And what's left behind feels completely different. Cold, silent, unnatural. This particular amusement park had been closed for years. No visitors, no maintenance, just rusted rides and empty pathways. Nature had already started taking over. Grass growing through cracks, trees pushing through concrete. It looked like a place time had completely forgotten. A group of explorers decided to document it. Cameras ready, lights on. They walked through the entrance and immediately noticed something strange. It wasn't normal silence. It felt heavy, like the place was holding something in. They moved deeper inside, past broken ticket booths, past faded signs, until they reached the main attraction, a large swing ride, hanging still, chains rusted, seats empty. Everything looked exactly how you'd expect. Abandoned. Dead. They started recording, talking quietly, trying not to disturb the stillness. And then, something happened. One of the swings moved. Just slightly. At first, they ignored it. Maybe it was the wind. But then, it moved again. Slowly. Back and forth. There was no wind. No sound. Nothing that could have caused it. The others noticed it too. They stopped talking. Stopped moving. Just watching. And then, another swing started moving. This time,
a little faster. Now it wasn't just one, it was multiple, all moving at slightly different speeds, like something invisible was pushing them. Panic started to set in. They checked their surroundings. No one else was there. No animals, no wind, nothing. Just the sound of metal chains creaking in the silence. They backed away slowly, trying to stay calm, but the feeling that something was watching them grew stronger. They decided to leave immediately. No more exploring, no more recording. But once again, the real horror came later, when they reviewed the footage, frame by frame, looking for an explanation. And that's when they saw it. In one of the shots, just for a second, there was a figure sitting on one of the swings, barely visible, almost transparent, but definitely there. And in the next frame, it was gone.
Number 3. The hidden room. Abandoned houses are common, old, broken, left behind, but sometimes they hide things that were never meant to be found. This particular house looked normal from the outside. Just another abandoned structure, windows shattered, door slightly open, nothing unusual. A group of explorers entered the house. At first, it was exactly what they expected. Dust, old furniture, signs of decay. But then, one of them noticed something strange. A wall. That didn't look right. The paint was different, the texture slightly off, almost like it had been added later. Curiosity took over. They knocked on it. It sounded hollow, not like a normal wall. Something was behind it. After a few minutes of searching, they found it. A hidden door. blended perfectly into the wall, almost invisible. Slowly, they opened it. The air inside felt different, heavy, cold, like the room hadn't been opened in years. Inside, they found something disturbing. The walls were covered in symbols, strange markings, not random, intentional. In the center of the room, there was a chair, old, worn out, facing the wall, and around it were objects, photographs, drawings, items that didn't belong in a normal home. Some of the photos showed people, but their faces were scratched out, completely erased. Others showed the house itself from different angles. It felt like someone had been watching, observing, recording everything. But why? And for how long? The explorers continued recording, trying to understand what they were seeing, but then something changed. The camera started glitching, lights flickered, and one of them heard a sound, a whisper, very faint, coming from behind them. They turned around, but there was no one there. The whisper came again, this time louder, but still unclear, like someone trying to speak, but unable to form words. That's when they ran. They didn't stop. They didn't look back. They just ran out of the house, leaving everything behind. But the footage they captured was enough. Enough to prove that some places are not just abandoned. They're hiding something. At this point, it was clear. These weren't just empty places. They were something else, something darker. But what comes next is even more disturbing. Because sometimes it's not buildings that are abandoned. Sometimes it's entire ships, floating alone in the middle of nowhere, with no one inside and no explanation why. Number 4. The abandoned ship. The ocean is already one of the most mysterious places on Earth. Endless, dark, unpredictable. Now imagine finding a ship in the middle of that vast emptiness. No crew, no movement, just floating alone. This is exactly what happened when a cargo vessel was discovered drifting far from any known route. At first glance, everything looked normal. The ship was intact, no visible damage, no signs of an accident. But something was very wrong. There was no one on board, not a single person. A rescue team was sent to investigate. As they approached the ship, they expected to find answers. But instead, they found questions. They boarded the vessel, slowly, carefully, every step echoing across the empty deck. The first thing they noticed was the silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that feels unnatural, heavy, almost suffocating. They moved inside, room by room, searching for any sign of life. And what they found made no sense. Food was still on the tables, half-eaten meals, cups still filled, as if people had just stopped, mid-action, and disappeared. Navigation systems were still running, lights were still on. No emergency signals had been sent, no distress calls, nothing. It was like time itself had been frozen. And then, something even stranger happened. One of the crew members reported hearing footsteps above them, on the deck, but they were all inside. No one was up there. They rushed out to check, but when they reached the deck, it was empty. Completely empty. The ocean stretched endlessly in every direction. No other ships, no land, just water and silence. They continued their investigation, trying to stay focused, trying to stay rational. But the feeling that they weren't alone never left. And then came the final moment, the moment that made them leave immediately. One of the cameras captured something, a figure standing at the far end of the corridor, still, motionless, watching. They moved toward it, slowly, carefully. But before they could reach it, the lights flickered, just for a second, and when they came back on, it was gone. No trace, no sound, nothing. The ship was later towed away, but no official explanation was ever given. And to this day, no one knows what really happened to the people on board. Number 5. The camera that recorded too much. Some places don't need people to tell their story. Sometimes, the story tells itself. This happened in an abandoned building, where a group of investigators decided to leave a camera recording overnight. No one inside, no movement, just a silent camera capturing everything. Or at least, that's what they thought. The building had a reputation. Strange noises, unexplained events, people refusing to go inside after dark. But they didn't believe in rumors. They wanted proof. So they set up the camera, positioned it in the main hallway, and left, locking the doors behind them. The camera recorded for hours. Nothing happened, just darkness, silence, stillness. Until, around 3:17 a.m., something changed. A sound, very faint, like a door, slowly opening. The hallway remained empty, but the sound was clear. Then, another noise, footsteps, soft, slow, coming from somewhere deeper inside the building. The camera continued recording, capturing every second, and then it appeared. A figure, standing at the far end of the hallway. Not moving, not reacting, just standing there, facing the camera. The footage showed no sign of how it got there. No door opening, no shadow entering. It was just suddenly there. The figure remained still for several seconds, long enough to be clearly visible. And then, it moved. Not walking, not running, just shifting in a way that didn't look natural. And then, it was gone. Just like that, disappeared. The rest of the footage was silent, empty, like nothing had ever happened. When the investigators returned the next morning, everything was exactly as they left it. No signs of entry, no broken doors, no movement, just an empty building. But the footage told a different story. A story they couldn't explain, and maybe didn't want to. The real truth about abandoned places. By now, you've seen the evidence, strange movements, unexplained figures, moments that simply don't make sense. And it raises one question: what really happens to a place when people leave? We often think abandoned means empty, but maybe that's not true. Maybe when a place is left behind, it doesn't just lose people, it keeps something. Memories, energy, moments that never fully disappear. Think about it. Every place has a story. Every wall has witnessed something. And when those stories are left unfinished, when those moments are never resolved, they don't just vanish. They stay, hidden, silent, waiting. And sometimes they show themselves, not clearly, not directly, but just enough to remind us that something is still there. The psychology of fear. But there's another side to this, a more logical explanation. Our minds. Humans are wired to detect danger, to notice movement, to hear sounds, even when there's nothing there. In dark, unfamiliar places, our brain fills the gaps. It creates patterns, shapes, sounds, things that feel real, even if they aren't. So maybe some of these moments can be explained. Maybe the shadows are just tricks of the light. Maybe the sounds are just the building settling. Maybe the figures are just our imagination. But here's the problem. Not everything fits that explanation. Some footage, some experiences go beyond what the mind can create. And that's where the mystery begins, between reality and the unknown. So where do we draw the line? What is real and what is not? The truth is, we don't know. And that's what makes it so unsettling, because uncertainty is far more powerful than fear itself. When you don't understand something, your mind keeps going back to it, trying to find answers, trying to make sense of it. But sometimes there are no answers, just questions. And maybe that's the way it's meant to be. Abandoned places are not just empty buildings. They are echoes of the past, fragments of stories, moments frozen in time. And whether you believe in the unknown or not, one thing is certain. There are things in this world we don't fully understand, and maybe we're not supposed to. If you're curious about the unknown, if you want to explore more mysteries, hidden truths, and unexplained discoveries, subscribe to Built on Purpose, because the next video might make you question reality itself.